less than an authority in her field, and somebody whose book I've read not once, but twice. The lady's name is Jacquie Edewards, and she is an absolute master and legend of one of the best income creating strategies in property called rent to rent. Good evening, Jacquie. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Oh, we've got a bit of a delay here, so you have to work. It's like one of those 20-year-old old school international phone calls. And with me being from South Africa and you originally from Canada.
America.
America.
From Michigan, right on the border of Canada.
Oh, there we go. Close enough. Yeah. So there we go. So I've got your voice, and about 2 seconds later, what I see comes through. So the old school transatlantic phone calls. Jacquie, thanks for coming on. Usually we do have the producers, but I'm quite happy we can wing it. I'm sure you've done something like this before. I would usually have my jacket on, so apologies, and we're going to go with the summer outfit of without the jacket on. So there we have it. Okay, yeah. To kick it off to everybody around the world that's signing and watching into the show. This is Building Returns. It is hosted by Radio Works. I don't know where they are, but we are live, and my role here is to interview people that are making an impact, people that are doing things differently, movers and shakers in the world of property around the world, and people that have a significant either philanthropic or pay it forward or some great charitable aspect towards them as well. As I mentioned, we've got Jacquie Edewards online. Jacquie, can you give us a brief background on yourself, being ex-American and landing here, and then what got you into your business?
Yep. So I am American. I came over to the UK about 12 years ago now, I think. I used to be an accountant. So I worked with one of the big accounting firms back in the US. Spent a couple of years doing that over there. I really love to travel. So I said, hey, can you send me somewhere? I only speak English, so my choices were a bit limited. And I came over here and I started off in London. I came right at the time of the credit crunch. So basically, I was that was like super highly paid consultants, basically, and no companies wanted to hire consultants. So the work kind of dried up, and the office got that kind of horrible corporate atmosphere where everybody was fighting for more accounting work. And I didn't actually like accounting. So I was thinking, what am I doing fighting for more accounting work? This is kind of miserable. So I left there and I went into a corporate accounting role. It was good, but I was still sitting there thinking, oh my God, is this what I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life? I'm going to be working in somebody else's company, whether it's this one or another one, and that's all there is to life. So again, I started looking, realized maybe I could do this kind of self-employed thing, but all I knew was accounting. So I was like, well, I'll just be a freelance accountant. And again, tried that for a little while. It was better. I could kind of pick and choose who I worked with. My life was a lot more flexible. So I would do a project, I would go traveling, and I would do another project. That brought me out to Oxford. So I got a job in Oxford and realized I loved living in Oxford much more than I loved living in London. So I needed to find a way to settle there because the job I was on, of course, was a temporary contract job. There weren't going to be a lot of other ones in Oxford because I worked with big multinational companies. There's not loads of them in Oxford that need US accountants. So I started to dabble in other things to figure out what can I do with my life to make some money to have the life I wanted. And before I got into property, I tried a little bit of network marketing. I tried some Forex trading. And I basically played around with what can I do? There's so many awesome opportunities out there. And then I found property investing and was like, no, I think this is really the way forward. You read so many books and so many people that say, property investing is a great way to build wealth and, really have that kind of freedom lifestyle. So I jumped in from there, and that was about 5 years ago that I kind of started getting interested in property and kind of training and figuring out what to do because I never owned any property either here or in the States. And so I had to kind of start from scratch and figure it all out. But since then, I've built a rent-to-rent portfolio in Oxford, which is my main strategy. We own a couple of properties now as well. And yeah, things have just gone from there. So hopefully that was a good overview.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I'm glad you went into that sort of amount of detail. As I mentioned, I know it because I've read it, although I did call you Canadian, which is, I apologize for that.
But okay, most people do.
Yeah, interesting that it's good that you've come from an accounting background. So obviously numbers are everything within property investing, especially in rent to rent, where you've really got to nitpick everything. So obviously that's helped you, and I'm glad that you got into property. You mentioned you were fiddling with Forex, and I'm sure if it was around back in those days, you probably would have had to go crypto as well. So you had to go at Forex, what was it, MLM and property. And I think any serious player, irrespective, even if they hit a big in property, they hit a big in MLM, they're always going to have a property portfolio as well. I think 99% of the world's wealthy have an established property portfolio. So it's something that you have to know, and it's the basis of all capital growth and income generation and income streams, which is great. So your business, so we've gone from where you were to where you are now. Tell me about the business and the makeup of the business at the moment now, where you are.
At the moment, so we've got, I think, I should know this better, but we've got, I think 20 or 21 properties in Oxford that we manage on a rent-to-rent basis. And then I've got a couple of HMOs in Swindon that we own that we manage through the company as well. So all of my rent-to-rents are HMOs, except for one that we've run as kind of a serviced accommodation that we put through on Airbnb. I did that as a little bit of a trial to see if I enjoyed serviced accommodation. And I realized HMOs are my bread and butter. I might as well just stick with those because I've got the system set up. It's what's working. Sure. So focus back in on HMOs. So we've got probably right around 120 tenants altogether across all of our properties. Again, most of those are in Oxford. We focus on the young professional market. So when I first moved to Oxford, I was coming from London. I thought I was only going to be there for a couple of months. So I thought, I'll just pop into a house share. It'll be fine. And looked at ones that were meant for professionals. And oh my God, they were absolutely dire. Most of them were old, dirty student houses that just had old people living in them. And I saw all sorts before I finally found a place that was reasonably decent. And the prices weren't all that different from what I was paying in London either. So Oxford is a really expensive city. So when I got around to kind of doing and thinking about property investing, I thought, all right, that's a really good target market to focus on and tenants to serve, basically, because everybody in Oxford focuses on the student market, really. That's what you think of when you think of Oxford. Whereas I knew from firsthand experience that the professionals didn't have a nice place to live. And there are a lot of professionals in Oxford. So that's who our kind of key tenant is. We've got young professionals. A lot of them are just coming for maybe 6 to 9 months to Oxford. They're doing a project. They're part of a research project at a university. Maybe they're working in a hospital. We've got a BMW factory that gets lots of interns and placements from Europe. Yeah, so I've got a small team that works with me now. So again, I started the business up on my own where I did everything. As we've grown, I couldn't continue to do everything because otherwise I would be crazy and that wouldn't give me the lifestyle that I was looking for because I didn't want just another job. So I've got a small team that helps me kind of manage on the day-to-day side of things. I've got somebody local in Oxford that kind of does the local stuff. And then I've got a couple of virtual assistants that help with the admin side.
Okay, good. So let's, I know rent to rent. In fact, I went to go and view one at 5:30 this afternoon. I'll run you through the numbers and why I'm not having a look at it. But, and it's all based on your figures. I obviously, as I know all the multiple strategies within the business, and I understand how they work and what you should and shouldn't be doing. Can you, as it's your game, can you break it down to give us the brief dummies guide for the international listeners? What is rent to rent?
Yeah. So rent to rent is basically property management. So you're managing the property on behalf of the owner, generally on a long-term contract. So most of my contracts are 5 years. Most people try to do 3 to 5 year contracts. So I basically go to the owner and I say, look, I will essentially become your tenant for the next 5 years. I will pay you a guaranteed amount of rent every month, and then I'm going to put my tenants or my clients into the property. I use HMOs, which are house shares, so I put them in on a room-by-room basis. So they rent individual rooms in the property. So I make my profit by the rent that I get from my tenants, less any of the bills and the rent to the owner. Then my profit is that kind of bit that falls out at the bottom.
Okay. With it being HMOs, how much refurbishment work do you get into to make sure that they are compliant or do come up to your local, or depends on your local authority, the local authority standard?
Yeah. So it all depends where the property starts from. So when I do my calculations and my numbers, I'm happy to do as much work as needs to get done as long as my numbers still work. So I've got a minimum profit per property that I need to make, and I've also got a minimum return on investment that I need to make. So when I look at a property, most of my properties were already HMOs when I got started. So they've got the basics. Oxford has additional licensing requirements. So anything with 3 or more tenants has to have a license from the council. So they're a bit stricter than most other places. So most of my properties already had licenses. So they had the basics. They had the fire doors. They had the alarm systems. Most of them were just kind of run down. So I needed to just freshen everything up and just bring it to a little bit better standard. But I've spent anywhere from maybe £5,000 up to our most we spent was about £25,000 on one of the properties. But again, as long as the numbers and we got kind of our minimum profit and our minimum return on investment, we were happy to kind of put that much money into it. And another thing to consider is that Oxford is quite expensive. So by putting £20,000 into this property, that was nowhere near what a deposit would have been. So this is like a £400,000 house. So the minimum deposit to buy something like that is £100,000 with a 25% deposit. So by putting £20,000 in, we would have been nowhere near buying a property. So I wouldn't recommend putting £20,000 into a property that maybe only costs £100,000 because you probably could just buy one instead. And you also want to make sure you've got a good relationship with the owner and you trust them before you start putting that kind of money in. So that's maybe not for the beginner. I'd say on average, you're looking at maybe £5,000. A fresh coat of paint, I found, does miracles to make things look fresher and brighter, and people want to move in faster. And then making sure you've got the safety features in there, so the right kind of fire alarms and fire doors.
Okay, Jacquie, it begs a question, and I'm sure people are probably wondering, hold on, why is somebody renting you the property and then you renting it on? Why wouldn't the landlord just rent it out himself? Why is he giving you that opportunity?
Yeah, and lots of them, they can just do that. So rent to rent doesn't work for everybody. It works for more of the landlord that needs to be or wants to be hands off for some reason. So looking at probably quite a few of my properties, the landlord was doing it themselves. So they were managing it themselves. And to be honest, they were doing a pretty horrible job of it. And so when my offer came along that said, you know what, I can do it all for you. You're going to get this about the same amount of rent as you were already getting, and you don't have to do any of the work. You're going to know exactly what you're getting for the next 5 years. You won't have to worry about voids, finding tenants, anything. That's a big turn on for them. So they're thinking, this is way easier. I've been trying to do it myself and it's too hard. Now this person's just going to take care of everything and make my life easier. Sure.
I mean, we know the cost of management, the cost of maintenance that you've got to take out every month, the cost of voids and all the rest can eat into any landlord's profit. So I can understand, obviously why somebody say, okay, so I'm going to get X amount every single month.
And not every landlord is a professional landlord. Not all the landlords know exactly what to do. So not everybody, lives and breathes property investing and wants to learn more about it and how to better manage their property and, make the most out of their property and get the highest returns possible.
Read the books.
Yeah. Some of them, they just, it's just a vehicle for maybe their pension. Maybe they've just inherited this property and don't know what else to do with it. They're not looking to get everything they can from it or even know what they could get from it. So, yeah.
Very true. And I know it's common, and I'm sure you've seen how common it is that they've either drawn out or they've taken all the money and they haven't reinvested back into the property. And this huge money income that they thought they were going to get slowly diminishes very, very quickly. And all of a sudden, they're not getting tenants in because it's an unhappy standard. And then you might be in for 5, 10, 20,000 pounds for refurbishment. And landlords don't want it or don't have that money to because they spent it already. So
yeah.
I tell you what.
They just don't seem to know how to do it, lots of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So Jacquie, sorry, we just got this delay, and I'm trying to get it right here. Can you give me an indicative idea, without giving away any secrets, some ideas of what the numbers should be? Give us an example for of one of yours or something that people would be interested in.
Yeah. All right. So it is going to be different. So again, my numbers in Oxford are going to be quite high. So if you're living somewhere in the north of England, they're going to be slightly different. But as an example, I'd say for a double room in Oxford that I'm going to rent out, on average, I'll probably get £550 to £600 a month from one of my tenants. That's all bills included. So when I look at my numbers, I would say, all right, on average, it really works at about a 5-bedroom house or 6-bedroom house. Anything smaller than that tends to not work because the numbers, just the profit's not there. There's not enough bedrooms to rent out. So I would have a look and I'd say, all right, I've got this 5-bedroom house. It's got 5 double bedrooms. We'll use 600 to try to make it easy. Even though I was an accountant, numbers running them in my head, I'm not super quick. So if I get any of the numbers wrong, just they'll be close enough. So 5 bedrooms at £600 each per month. That's £3,000 a month income to me. So that's what I'll get from my tenants. So then you'd have to look at what bills you're paying. So I'd be paying the council tax, the gas, the electric, TV license. We have a cleaner that comes in twice a month to our properties just to do the communal areas. You'd have to have a little bit set aside for maintenance because there are going to be maintenance. There might be some voids. So
10%.
There's if you go through my book, there's how to calculate all that stuff is all in there. So if we say maybe £600 a month for all the bills, so I'd say £3,000 coming in for my tenants minus £600 a month for the bills. So that leaves me with £2,400 a month. So then that would be, I would need to take out my profit from that. So again, coming up with what is the minimum profit that works for you to kind of manage that property and make it worth it. So on a 5-bedroom house, my minimum I'd be looking to make just offhand is £100 profit per property per month, per bedroom per month. Sorry. So if there's 5 bedrooms, I'd want to be making £500 profit. So 2,400 minus £500 gets me down to £1,900. That's the maximum I'd be able to pay the owner and still be able to pay all of my bills and to get my profit from it. So then I would go to the owner, and that would be kind of where we'd be looking at starting our negotiations and going from there.
Yeah, simple. Yeah, I'll use those numbers, or I sometimes take my most expensive room as a void as a month and take that off as my worst case profit level. So you're doing 100 per room, similar sort of numbers. The one I saw today, for example, have a 5-bedroom, really nicely done. Funny enough, 1, 2, 3 kitchens.
Wow.
Let's call them kitchens, not kitchenettes. 3 sort of small kitchens, not just a single row with a cooker and what have you. 1, 2, 3 kitchens, and 1 kitchenette and then 1 without. So where I am in South London, this was actually in Croydon. Ran the numbers. There's been a dump of studios that come on the market now, so it's just depressed the market slightly. Croydon's been a great area, and it's good commuter into London. So I looked at the 2 without kitchens. Ran the numbers about 600, so that gives me 1,200, and then the ones with kitchens about 700 a month. So 7 3s at 21 plus 1,600 plus 1,200. That gives me about 3,300. So I look 3.3, and I take 10% off for management operating. So I'm down to about 2.9-ish, that sort of thing. And then your gas, lecky, council tax, about 400. So 2.9 less 400 is 2.5. Landlord wanted 2.5. No deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
No deal.
And that I see that happen a lot of times. And, people will come to me and say, well, I did all these calculations and this is what the landlord wants and I won't get any profit. And it's kind of saying, well, that's not really the deal then. You need to be able to show them what value you're adding to their lives so that they'd be happier taking a lower rent. What are you really giving them? What benefits beyond just that kind of monthly payment that you're paying them that's going to really solve all their problems and make them happier to take a little bit less so that you can get a profit?
Yeah, I do like the idea. It's not one of my primary strategies. I'm more into sort of bigger developments now. We do have a sourcing arm. We source a lot of business down in South Wales for the entry-level investors, guys that are being churned out of these property schools. But I think rent-to-rent is growing. And I think it initially had a bit of a dirty name, but the likes of yourself are definitely cleaning it up, which is brilliant. You're looking at legislation, you're making sure that people are doing things the right way. And from my point of view, I think for an investor that wants to get into the business, also cutting your teeth pretty quickly with HMOs as well, it is an affordable way to get in. Even if you're investing in, say, South Wales, if you're looking at a 60 grand property, you're in for 15 grand deposit plus legals, blah, 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 you're up for 20. And then you might need 10 to 15 grand to refurbish it. So realistically, if you don't have 30 grand, you're going to be battling to get into even in the entry level of properties. But doing rent to rent, if you're in for about 5 grand, okay, sure, you might need deposit and 1.5 months up, 1.5 months up front, and then first month's rent and what have you. You're probably in the region of about 8 grand to be able to get in. But realistically, you're going to be cash flowing, when the numbers work, at least £500 a month. So you're going to recoup that money. Other thing is people, oh no, I've thrown away my 5 grand. No, you've invested that, so you're going to get a return on that. And the other thing is your deposit, you're going to be getting that back as well. So it is a quick way to, and if you multiply that strategy over multiple times, you say you got 20, 21,
Yeah.
You do the maths on that. Now you're living. Now we're talking about that financially free figure for even if you're living in the city of London, that's financially free. So and this is why I wanted to get you on the show, Jackie, is we cover all the different strategies, and I want to make sure that we do cover everybody, and we cover people all over the world that do different things. But I think this is a great way to get in and to be able to do it quite quickly. So I commend you on what you do. So a question for you. I'll rattle through some of my questions so we can leave you back to your Thursday evening. What is your USP? What makes you unique, apart from being American in Oxford?
Unique to my landlords, or just in general?
No. What is your USP? If we're talking about branding overall.
What makes me unique? I think it's that I really care. So and this is going back stereotypical. So I mean, lots of people that are kind of into, property investing and care. But when you look around at lots of landlords and lots of agents and people that manage properties in general, most of them just don't really care. Whereas I do really care about my tenants. I care about my landlords. I care about kind of the community as a whole. And that was a big part of kind of getting into it for me, is I want to make things better. I want to take those kind of really crappy houses that people are living in not very nice conditions, and I want to make them better. I want to, raise the standard of living in Oxford was one of the biggest things that we had kind of as one of our core values when we got started. So yeah, I think that's what makes me different. Whereas because there's such high tenant demand in Oxford, lots of people that get into the property market there, they're just thinking, oh, well, I can just throw a crappy property on the market because tenants need a place to live, and there's so many of them that it's so easy to rent a property out. I don't have to do anything. Whereas I would prefer people lived in something a little bit nicer.
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more. I think sort of slumlords and all the rest of that, they are a dying breed, and the likes of ourselves are going to push them out of the market because people do demand a high standard of living. We have social media, and you can out somebody very, very quickly on that. It takes years and years to build a brand and only seconds to destroy it. That leads me to my next thing about branding. And obviously, what you're doing is ethics and your morals are really, really strong. And I find that's essential, because if they aren't, you're going to get found out. And we're in a medium to long-term business here. And if we're looking for repeat landlords, repeat tenants, you'll be building a brand. It's a big town, but it's small enough to know that people know where you know about you. So you can't mess up. And I genuinely believe doing the right thing and working with the community, working with everybody, and you're building your brand, you're going to create a long-lasting business. Doing it the other way is short-minded, and it's going to catch you up really, really quickly.
Yeah, and it's a short-term thinking. So we have taken over some properties that they had people that had that short-term thinking. So I think they were other rent-to-renters. They didn't call it rent-to-rent, and I don't think they were trained or really knew what they were doing. But they basically ended up going bankrupt. So we just took one over right at Christmas time this year. And I had a couple calls from other landlords that had been managed by that same guy who went bankrupt, basically ran off with the last month's rent because he couldn't pay it. Loads of outstanding utility bills. We took over some properties about 2 years ago. I think 6 of them from kind of one family, where again their agent had just gone bankrupt and stopped paying on time. And I mean, he ran off with all the tenants' deposits and stuff as well. And he had overcrowded the houses. So even though the houses had HMO licenses, he would take out the extra beds when the council came by for their inspection. So there were like 10 people living in a 5-person house, and it was just a mess.
Yeah. No, again, that comes back to doing it the right way. And this is what I tell people time and time again, is do it the right way. You are going to get found out if you don't. And it's, I don't know, my brain just doesn't work that way to be doing it on the cheap. So, and the other good thing is that I say to people is, when you are doing it right, like you have been, you are now having people contact you. Your marketing costs are probably being reduced because it's reversed. Agents and people in the market and landlords are coming to you now because
exactly. So I had to do loads of advertising for the past few years, because lots of our business and our new landlords are coming from word of mouth. We're also accredited agents with Oxford City Council, so we're on their list. That's how one of my latest landlords found me, because he wanted an accredited agent. So yeah, it just makes sense.
No, that's brilliant, and I commend you for that. So here's a question: where's Jacquie in 3 to 5 years' time? The old HR question. Where are we going to find you in 3 to 5 years' time?
Oh, that's a great question. So, and I'm working on figuring that out for sure, but we have just actually bought a 27-acre parcel of land here in Oxfordshire, but we're not getting into developments. We're actually building a farm. So we're building our family home, and we're going to become farmers. So that's probably my next big project. So looking at kind of keeping the rent-to-rent portfolio going, I'm not looking to grow it massively. It's quite a nice, really good lifestyle business. And again, I've got a team that manages it. So I maybe spend 10 hours a week kind of working in the business. Most of that is just having meetings with my team, making sure things are running smoothly. And I do like change. So I'm a bit of a shiny penny chaser. So doing something for too long is just not my thing. So so looking at keeping the rent-to-rent business going, it creates a really great income. I do coaching and training and mentoring for other people that want to grow rent-to-rent businesses. And then, looking at starting up our alpaca farm and seeing where that takes us. Because we're also looking at, with that much land, is we're really into kind of sustainable living. And our goal is to ultimately be able to create the glamping, but more of a sustainable show home. So you could come and stay in a little cabin on the land that's fully sustainable. Check out what it's like to live with kind of off the grid with your solar panels and all the smart home technology. So that's our dream.
That's really, really cool. Really cool. So at this stage, this point, what is it that you want to get from our listeners? Is, I suppose the first question is, how do we get hold of you? Okay, apart from the link that'll be if you're watching this on Facebook. Have you got email address or websites or anything like that? Do you have a mentoring blog or log or anything? Or how do people find you?
Yeah, I'd say the easiest place to find me is at renttorent.co.uk. So my website, www.rent, and then the letters TO, rent.co.uk. Otherwise you can grab the books. So they're available on Amazon. There's actually 2 of them. So This is the newest one, this yellow one. This one just came out late last year in 2017. So this one is basically a getting started guide. So if you're looking for just your step-by-step, here's exactly what you need to do to get started in rent to rent. This is it. It's a checklist. It's awesome. But yeah, check out my website. You can contact me. There's a link to do a free 10-minute call if you want to have a chat with me and learn any more. Yeah, it's all there.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic, Jacquie. Anything that you want to tell our viewers, or that you need for them? Are you looking for investors? Or are you looking for tenants? What do you need from our viewers?
Listeners. Well, that's a great question. Well, I'm always looking for more tenants. If you're in the Oxford area and you think you're a great salesperson, I am looking for a great person to do my viewings for me. So we're just having a staff changeover, and I would love somebody that can sell rooms and wants to learn more about the business and be able to kind of grow in confidence. You can shadow me a little bit and learn how it works. Otherwise, Ideally, I'd like more people to understand property investing and be able to do it properly. So, getting educated and making sure you're doing it right and you know what you're doing. That's the key thing, I think.
Excellent. I second that completely. All right, Jacquie, that's fantastic. That sort of sums up the before, the during, and where we're going. But there's a main part that we're missing out, and you started touching on it. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show. You're talking about ethical and sustainability and all the rest. Something that's important to me and something that I question everybody, and it's a theme that is growing in property investors around the world, which is thrilling. It's brilliant. There's so many people that are doing things just a little bit different, doing things from a philanthropic point of view. They're giving or paying forward. So from your point of view, what do you do that people are grateful for in the property space, or separate from the property space?
Sorry?
Charitable. Sorry, do you do anything from a charitable perspective that's supported by your property business? You're talking about sustainability on the farm, etc. Is that where your Okay, can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So that's where we're heading is and that's what our property business is looking to support, is that kind of sustainable living and making sure we're giving back more to kind of the earth and the world than what we're taking from it, because everything just seems to use so many resources. And while with rent to rent, I can't spend the money to make all of my properties, fully sustainable and, put in all the solar panels and do all of those awesome things like that. That's what the kind of profits from that are going to support, is in our farm. We're going to be fully off grid and sustainable at some point in the future. And we're going to use that space to showcase that to the world, so that people that want to know what it's like or how they can make more of an impact in their kind of day-to-day lives will be able to come to us, try out the new technology, try out and understand and learn about different ways of being sustainable in their own lives, and take some of that back home with them.
That's fantastic. And like I said, that's something that's really, really strong, and it's a message that's being communicated through so many people I'm speaking to. I've got guys doing massive developments in Western Australia, 100% solar powered. They're actually selling energy back to the grid. So, and these are the people that I want to highlight, but because so often these are the stories that go amiss even though we might be involved in media and what have you. It's these little bits that go out. And, I'm sick and tired of hearing all the bad news. And this is why I've got the show, is I want to be showcasing people with the good news, the people that are doing the right stuff. So from me and the team of Radio Works, from my business source, my property, my business partner, Roger Burrows, always got to mention him. I can't do it without him. I'd like to thank you for being on the show. You truly are somebody that I think exemplifies exactly what we're looking for. Somebody's doing something different, somebody that's a shining light, there's a beacon, that's ethically and morally correct, and has the right path that's moving forward to be doing stuff better and ecologically friendly in the future. So for me, humble thank you. Thank you for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. So anybody that wants to get hold of Jacquie, find her on here. She's rent2rent.co.uk. The link should be underneath that. To everybody out there in property land, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and we'll catch you next week with another enthralling story. Jacquie, thanks again. I really enjoyed this. Have a great evening.